Good evening, everyone. If everyone could please take a seat. I want to welcome all of you to Torah Or, and I know it's a late hour to come and hear a lecture, but because we're in the days of Elul, and we also do Silihot during these days, about the earliest we can do Silihot is a little after midnight. So Rav Kin has graciously agreed to speak to us tonight. For those of you that were fortunate enough just before Tisha B'Av to hear Rabbi Kin speak, he gave a penetrating lecture on the crisis in Israel. And it wasn't the crisis that all of us read about in the newspapers every day. It wasn't the bombs that were flying and the peace process that is either going on or not going on. But he really spoke to us about the prophecy of redemption and what truly was going on in Eretz Israel. And it seemed only fitting that he continue that thought tonight with the whole concept of Teshuva and return and judgment as we approach the Yamim Noraim. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce our Rav, Rabbi Eliyahu Kin, to continue this discussion.
There's a very unusual machloket in the Gemara, a discussion between Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai, a discussion that lasted for 2.5 years. Noach lo le'adam shenivra or lo noach le'adam shenivra? Is it beneficial? Was it worthwhile that man is created or not? One thought was that perhaps Noach lo shelo nivra. After all, there are many challenges, many difficulties in life. From the time one is born till he grows up, gets married, settles down, life is not easy. It's not a picnic. Or do we say Noach lo shenivra? After all, if he fulfills the mitzvot, if he leads a nice Jewish life, B'ezrat Hashem, he will reap the benefits of his investment, of his hard work. Schar mitzvah le'olam haba, in the world to come. Life is worth living. There was a discussion, what's better? What were they arguing about? What's the question, Bechlal? The question was not what the purpose of man's life is, what is his job in this world. That the Torah Kedosha already tells us, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put man in this world le'ovdah u'leshomrah, to preserve it, to maintain it, to be a partner in creation. Man has a role, and we know approximately what his role is. They didn't argue about that. They did not question why HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world to begin with. They somewhat understood that too, as the Torah Kedosha tells us elsewhere, le'tivecha ve'haritecha. In the end, all of this work is not in vain, it's not for nothing. Le'tivecha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will repay you for all of this, ve'haritecha, in the end. The real issue was, is man capable, statistically? What are the chances, what are the odds of him succeeding in this mission? Or are the odds against him, will he fail? After all, we need to analyze kohot hanefesh, man's ability. Can he withstand all the temptations, all the challenges that he's being put through? What are the odds of him making it, succeeding? Or will he fail? Just imagine, mashal lemaha davar dumeh, just imagine when somebody buys a lottery ticket. Everybody knows that the odds of winning are almost nil. But I'm not going to say nil. There's still a chance that he's going to win millions of dollars. What are the odds of losing? Also very, very high. But what is he about to lose? $1? Does it still cost $1? I forget already. I haven't bought. So what will he lose? He doesn't have too much to lose, but he has a lot to gain. This is not the case here that we're talking about. Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai are discussing something else. It's not $1 that's involved. Imagine if you put up $50,000 to buy lottery tickets, or many lottery tickets. Then the odds, then it becomes a lot riskier. You're going to be losing $50,000 if you do not win. That's what they were analyzing here. Let's take the Adam, let's take this human being. What are the chances of him winning, and what are the chances of him losing? And he has a lot to lose. He works so hard, he goes through life. It's a very difficult life. To raise kids, to find parnasah, livelihood. Is it worthwhile for him to be born? Does he gain anything by it? What are the chances of him winning, succeeding, or failing? What was the conclusion after 2.5 years of discussing this issue? Noach lo shelo nivra. he would be better off statistically knowing the kochot hanefesh of a human being that he would not have been born. Obviously, because of the many difficulties and challenges and temptations, the Yetzer Hara as we call it, it's not easy, and not too many people succeed in living a decent, normal life according to the Torah. Nevertheless, the rabbis added, Aval achshav shenivra, now that he is born, after all, he has no say in the matter. They don't ask him, do you want to be born or not? As it says in Pirkei Avot, Ki al korchach ata notzar. You're not asked. They don't consult with you. And because it's against our will whether we're born or not, Aval achshav shenivreta, now that we are being created, now that we find ourselves in this world, yefashpesh b'ma'asav. He should examine his deeds. What does that mean? It means that we should always look at ourselves and ask ourselves the same question that they asked. Was it worthwhile for us to be born or not? In other words, this is an important discussion not only for them, but for every individual. Now that we're born, yefashpesh b'ma'asav, examine one's own deeds and ask yourself that question. How am I doing? Was it worthwhile for me to be born or not? And this is obviously a very important question, because if we ask ourselves this question continuously, regularly, we will be able to make a difference. We will be able to make the difference that at the end, it will be noach lanu shenivra. That in the end, when we are about to depart from this world, we will be able to look back and say, it was worthwhile. We did it. We made it. So this is an important question for everybody to ask. The rabbis elsewhere tell it to us a little bit differently. The rabbis elsewhere say as follows: Chayav Adam lish'or et atzmo. Tamid, always a person should ask himself, Matay yagiu ma'asai le'masei avotai Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Person should always ask himself and aspire, when will I ever be like my forefathers, Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov? What's the idea behind this aspiration? Could we be like Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov? The idea is twofold. What the rabbis are trying to communicate to us is that, first of all, it's important to aspire. In the same way that the physical body grows inch by inch until approximately the age of 18, haguf godel, then it stops, the neshama also has to grow. And the neshama does not grow if you don't give it a chance to grow, if you don't aspire to grow. You have to give it a chance to grow just like the physical body grows. Number two, they were trying to tell us that the neshama has tremendous potential, because the physical body is limited and the neshama is not limited. And therefore aspire, and you will be surprised to which heights you can grow. One does never know if you can accomplish something if he doesn't try it. And that not only materialistically, but spiritually as well. Very simple people who came from very simple parents became great rabbis and great leaders of the generation of their times, because they aspired, they worked hard. Had they not done so, they would not have maximized their potential. The rabbis are therefore telling us and reminding us, you have a neshama, use it correctly, use it properly, aspire to reach great heights. We see this idea of this koach ha-neshama in two very important ways. People think that the koach that we have that drives us is the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer HaTov. If somebody uses his Yetzer HaTov, he will be tzaddik. If somebody uses his Yetzer Hara, his evilness, he will be a rasha. They think that these are the main forces that drive man. That's not exactly accurate. Yetzer HaTov, Yetzer Hara even exists by goyim. And they cannot reach the heights of where a Jew can reach. Because there's a big difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. It's called the neshama. That may surprise many of you when I make the statement that a goy does not have a neshama, but that's the reality. Because people confuse the term neshama with a ruach, with a spirit. And sometimes the word neshama is interchanged. So everybody has a neshama, but it's a different kind of a neshama. The neshama that a Jew has a special divine spark in it. And that divine spark aspires to be davek b'shechina. It wants to get close to the Shekhinah. That the goy does not have, except for those few individuals who have converted, which is a story in itself. What is pushing them, what is driving them, if they have not a similar neshama, to get close. Nevertheless, it's the neshama akdosha that every Jew has that aspires, that wants to lidavek b'shechina. And that is the meaning of the pasuk, Ner Hashem nishmat adam. The neshama of a human being is like a candle. Why is it compared like a candle? For various reasons. Reason number one, according to the Kabbalah, a candle can light many other candles. A neshama can split itself into many, many sparks, called nitzotzot. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives the neshama various opportunities, chances to come back into this world reincarnated begilgul. If you did not succeed the first time, try again. That is one idea of why the neshama is compared to an air. It can split itself up into various sparks. The neshama is compared to an air because it illuminates. It's the captain of the ship. That is the driving force. Once the neshama departs, the body has no function. It's dead. And it's also compared to a ner, to a candle, because the ner is always pointing upwards, because that is where it comes from. Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam, to remind us that the neshama is from upstairs. It's something spiritual. But to get a better understanding of this sgulatiyut, of the uniqueness of the neshama, we turn to Kohelet. Kohelet tells us a very interesting, fascinating pasuk. Ve'aruach tashuv el ha'elokim asher netana. In the end, when a person departs from this world, the ruach, the spirit, returns to God from where it has come from. He has given us this ruach, this neshama. There's a lot of sodot, a lot of remazim, a lot of information in this one pasuk. First of all, Shlomo Melech is telling us it's called a ruach. It's something spiritual. It's not materialistic. Tashuv Elokim Asher Netana, he is reminding us that the neshama is a chelek elok hamimad. It is a part of God. Tashuv, it returns. It is reminding us that the neshama he nitzchit. It is eternal. Ilo nirkevet bakever. It does not rot and decompose like the physical body. And it's telling us tashuv. It has the ability to do teshuvah as well. It is able to return. It is able to fix and correct. Everything depends on the neshama. As a result of this, we now understand something very important. If a human being does teshuvah, if he corrects, if he changes his lifestyle, this siman muvhak, it is indicative shaneshama sholetet bo, that the neshama is controlling him. Chalila, the other way around, if a person does not do teshuvah, hesitates, declines, whatever, it's a siman shayetz hara sholet bo, that the yetzer hara is in charge of him. Shu kavul, he's in shackles, in the shackles of the tum'ah. And the more a person allows this to go on for many, many years, the harder it becomes, the more difficult it is for him to release himself from these shackles of tum'ah. And worse than that, if he remains in that way, and by the way, people do not remain the same. If they don't advance, they go back. And that is another reason why one always has to aspire to improve. One never remains the same. Every year we change. If one does not improve, if one does not advance, he falls back. And it becomes much more difficult for him to do teshuvah. His neshama at that stage is dormant, asleep. And what that happens when the neshama is asleep, it loses a tremendous potential. It doesn't realize how much he's losing out. And you might say, what's so bad about that? Or what's so bad about that? The prophets tell us that a person who does not advance, does not progress, does not return, does not get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the avonot that he does creates masachim, it creates walls and partitions between him and his God. When he prays, Hashem does not listen. His tefillah lo mitkabelet lemala. And he becomes more and more distant. And in the end, Khalilah, he loses his share to the Olam Haba too. Hashem does not want this to happen. And that is why he gives us the opportunity of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah is very interesting. It happens to be also our New Year's Day. Rosh Hashanah, we begin a new year. Why did Hashem put Yom Hadin, the day of judgment, on Rosh Hashanah? To tell us that you can begin a new chapter in your life. A new beginning. You're beginning a new year. It's okay. You start again. For a person not to think, I'm lost. I'm a lost case. I'm already over 65. It's too hard for me to change. No, you're beginning a new year. You can begin a new beginning. That's Rosh Hashanah. What's Yom Kippurim? Yom Kippurim is unique. It's something separate. Many people would have loved to see all their tikim pliliim, all their criminal cases, files, destroyed, erased. They've accumulated, unfortunately, over the years. There's a file cabinet just for them at the police department, at the courts. Tikim pliliim, they're called in Israel. Criminal files. They would have loved to see these disappear, but they don't disappear. They're always there. I believe they always remain there. Even if you're innocent, even if they let you go out of jail, There still is a record. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't work like that. I have a different system. It's called Yom Kippurim. I erase et kol hatikim hapriliyim. I erase it. I atone for it. I forgive you. I destroy it. If you do Teshuva, on condition that you do Teshuva. After all, Hashem says, Ki lo echpotz b'mot hamet. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't want people to just die. Kim b'shuvo. I want him to return. So I have to give him the opportunity to return. If that's the case, that Teshuvah is so important, we first need to figure out, Mahem ha'ikuvim, then why isn't everybody doing Teshuvah these days? We hear that a lot of people in Eretz Yisrael are doing Teshuvah. That is very reassuring. It's very good to hear about that, but not enough. So we need to understand, first of all, what is happening, what's the mindset of all these individuals. Ma'im choshvim, or ma'im margishim, what are they thinking, what are they feeling? Why isn't everybody doing Teshuvah? If it's so important, after all, it's the neshama that wants it. Anybody who's read about the stories of metim klinim, people who have had an NDE experience. NDE stands for near-death experience. Mavet klini, it's called in Hebrew. Many of them describe very similar things. They describe how they see themselves rise out of their body. They can see the ambulance and the paramedics coming to take care of the body. They see themselves floating into a tunnel. All of a sudden they see their relatives approaching. They all see the exact same things. I wasn't interested in all of that. I was interested in something after that. They also observe a very, very bright, shining light that they can't describe in human terms. Something that does not exist in this world. A light that radiates warmth and love. And they're so in love with that light, they want to attach themselves, they want to get nearer. Until they hear a voice telling them, your time has not come yet, you have to go back into this world. And that's when they notice, that's when they see their neshama being sucked back into their body, and all of a sudden they regain their senses. This is a typical, I just described to you, a typical NDE, or near-death experience, a Mavet Klini, which Jews and non-Jews have both undergone. Both have seen similar things. Both have had a similar experience. This is the neshama. What is that bright light? It's the Shekhinah. And they see it, and they sense it, and they see how much it wants the neshama to reattach itself to it, because we are taken from it. So that if the neshama wants so much to get back, to get close to the Shekhinah, why is it so that so many are still distant and not doing Teshuvah? I put together a list, probably not a complete list, but a number of reasons that I feel that is preventing people from doing complete Teshuvah. The Navi tells us as follows: Yada shor koneu v'chamor evus be'alav, Israel lo yada, ami lo yitbonan. The Navi, the prophet, reveals to us partially what the reason for this is. The Navi is telling us an ox knows his master, so does a donkey. For some reason, the prophet says the Jewish people do not know this, who their master is. Ami lo yitbanan, they do not analyze who their master is. What's going on here? How does a donkey, how does an animal know who his master is? What is the Navi trying to tell us? The prophet is trying to ask us, don't you ever think about who feeds you? Mi mefarnes otcha? Me'efo ba'a ochel shelcha? Where does your food come from? Mi mechayeh otcha? As we say in the prayer, Kol zman shaneshama bekirbi modani lefanecha. We should be thanking the Almighty every moment that we are alive, that we can breathe, because that breathing can stop at any moment. So people don't stop to reflect and to think a little bit. Rega, me'efo bali parnasa? Is it by intelligence? Where is all this coming from? Who gives me food? An animal knows who his master is. He knows where the food is. He knows who gives it to him. Ami lo yitbonan. So that is one of the reasons, perhaps, of what goes on in people's minds. They don't stop to think, where is all this coming from? Where is all this blessing coming from? Who's responsible for all of that? And as a result, of course, they don't do Teshuvah. The bigger question is, of course, why don't they stop to think about it? Why don't people stop to think about it? A few months ago, I had to change the mattresses at home. It's been many years since we last bought mattresses. When do you buy new mattresses? Anybody know? When is the time to buy a new mattress? When you start feeling the pain of the metal springs, It's not comfortable anymore. Ze koev. My wife felt it first. I could have slept on the floor. I don't mind. But anyway, after a number of years, you start feeling it's not comfortable. You know it's time to change the mattresses. People change the mechonat kvisa, the wash machine, their cars, when it's not working properly, and they need it. They need a new one, a brand new one. They go out and buy themselves another one. What's going on over here? Sha'adam merachem al haguf. He has pity on himself. He doesn't want to be in pain. Doesn't want to be in pain. He makes himself as comfortable as possible. He puts on the air condition, whatever, to make himself more comfortable. For some reason, what the Navi is trying to tell us is that anachnu lo merachmim al neshama. We don't have the same pity we have on the body as we should have on the neshama as well. But still, we haven't answered the question. Okay, why not? Why don't we pity our neshama? So for that, I have to tell you a story. I was once in Sfat, by the kever of the Bet Yosef. And I approached the kever, and a young man turns to me and he says, Ani lo yachol livkot, lo mesugal livkot. I can't bring myself to tears. Yesh li lev shel even, he tells me. I have a heart of stone. And I was a young man then, and I said to myself, I pity you really, Miskin. He wants to cry and he can't cry. I don't know why. I thought to myself, how could it be, if one wants to cry, to bring himself to tears, why is it so difficult? I know for women it takes 2 seconds. For men it's a little harder, but nevertheless, a man can bring himself to tears too if he chooses to. The answer is not everybody. That night I thought a little bit about it. Why is it that a person who wants to cry, he wants to, does not cry? It's hard. He has a difficult time. And the answer was, Shelo maspik koev lo, lo maspik echpat lo. He's not in pain enough. Whatever bothers him does not bother him enough. If he would truly bother you, if he would truly pain you, you would be in tears. When a person wants to cry and he doesn't cry, is a siman that whatever is bothering him, whatever pains him, is not paining him enough, does not hurt him enough. If he would really hurt, he would cry. So what's happening is people are losing sensitivity. They have lost the regishut, all sensitivity. But we still have to answer that question. Why have people lost their sensitivity? For that, we turn to the Torah. The Torah already knows the Jewish people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu already knows us. And He reveals to us what causes a lack of sensitivity, what causes people, therefore, not to stop to think and not to have pity on their neshama. It's called kashyut oref. Ki am kshe oref ata. You're a stubborn nation, the Torah Kedosha tells us. Stubborn. Simply stubborn. You want to know what stubbornness is? Take a look at the word that the Torah uses for stubbornness. Oref. What's oref? It's the back. To describe stubbornness, the Torah uses oref. The back. What is the back? Because of the spinal cord? Is it harder? When a person is stubborn, he turns his back. Ulo mistakel. He doesn't pay attention. You hit him on the head. Doesn't look around. Who's hitting me? Just look what's happening in Eretz Yisrael today. They're being hit. They're being bombed. They're being butchered. They don't look back. Why is this happening? They don't ask for a moment. Lama marbitzim li? Who's hitting me? That's called kashyut oref. Stubbornness. Person is stubborn, of course. He's not sensitive. He's not sensitive. He doesn't stop to think, to have rahmanut on his neshama. That is part of the problem. Person who's stubborn becomes selfish. Person who's selfish loses track of what should be his seder adifut b'chaim, what should be his priorities in life. Because a person who's stubborn and is selfish, he's self-centered. All he thinks is about himself. If you think about yourself, you don't think about others. You can't think about the neshama either. It's a chain reaction. These are some of the ikuvim. But there are others too. People have lost sense of time. They don't realize that time goes by real quickly, and sooner or later they'll be in a box. How do I know that this is true, that people lose track of time? I want to know what each one of you would tell me if I were to ask the following question. Chalila, chaz v'shalom, if you are told, let me not use the word you, if one is told by his doctor, you have 6 months to live, that's it. Based on my diagnosis of what you have 6 months left of life. And let's assume that this doctor knows what he's talking about. Sometimes they don't know. I want to ask each one of you, what would you do with the 6 months? Any volunteers? Any suggestions? You have 6 months to live. What would you do? Anybody want to suggest an idea? You would sit down and study? Okay. Anybody else? Repair all the avonot. I agree. I would do the same thing as both of you said. Anybody disagree? Anybody? Any additional suggestion? What? Put all your affairs in order? Which affairs? Like what? Yeah. I would hope that at least the emphasis would be on spiritual. After all, if that's all we have to live, that is, we know we would try to do what's most important. And what's most important for a Jew at least is that which is spiritual. Lachzor b'tshuva, like you said, lilmod Torah, to do chesed, to give as much tzedakah as possible. This is a healthy attitude. This is a healthy way of thinking. And if this would be our answer to that question, that would be indicative, that would be a good siman, that the neshama is working properly. But the problem is asleep. Because we shouldn't only say and think like that when we have 6 months to live. We should think like that all the time, because we don't know when our time is up. Because that will be our answer if you were told that we have 6 months to live. That should be their answer if we did not know. Because we did not know. It could be 1 month, it could be less, it could be more. And because it could be less or could be more, we have to think like that all the time. The fact that we don't think like that is because we're not aware of the time. The time is passing by very quickly. And that is, people say, mañana. Of course, the Shuvah is important. I have time when I'll be older. I first have to settle my business. I first have to get married. Once I'm married, I have a good wife, then I'll keep Shabbat, then I'll keep kosher, then I'll go to pray, then I'll do this. But that may never come that day. So people lose track of time. They think that they have all the time in the world. Another problem with the Shuvah is called hergel, habits. People form habits and it becomes very, very difficult to change habits. The older you get, it's difficult. So that's another problem. Materialism. The rabbis tell us, instead of praying to Kadosh Baruch Hu that you should understand the Torah, pray to Him that you should not eat as much, that you should not want to indulge in all the good food and drink there is in this world, because when a person indulges himself in materialism, that affects him too. Now comes my favorite. Anybody who's from Israel will understand me. In Israel, you ask a father, how's your son doing? An older son. Baruch Hashem mesudar. What's mesudar? Mesudar is a very special Hebrew word in Israel. You know what mesudar means? Chitanti oto Baruch Hashem. He's married. Yesh lo dira, yesh lo parnasa. Mesudar lekol ha'chaim. That's the way they think. Mesudar, he's all taken care of. Mesudar, all you need is Khalila, one little bullet, to make that Mesudar very Mesudar. Khalila. What do you mean Mesudar? Where is that bitachon atzmi coming from? How are you so confident to say everything is okay, Baruch Hashem, everything Mesudar? Say thank God, everything is fine. Not Mesudar. What's Mesudar? Nothing is Mesudar in this world. Until a person departs from this world, when people at his funeral can say, this man lived a good life. He followed the Torah and mitzvot. Azu chay chayim mesudarim. To say a person is mesudar just because he has a house, just because he has parnasa, maybe the parnasa will disappear tomorrow. Just look how many people have gone bankrupt, lost their homes, or left this world before their time. Don't be so sure, don't be so confident. People who are overconfident don't think about the real tachlit, about the real purpose of what life is all about. They think this is okay, everything Baruch Hashem is sudar. Ashrei Adam mefached tamid, the pasuk says. Fortunately is a person who's always concerned. He's always anxious. Maybe I won't have this tomorrow. Mefached me'avonot shelo, because he knows that he has debits on his record, which may go after him, these accusing angels, and take away what he has. He won't be mesudar anymore. Ashrei Adam mefached tamid. And the opposite, u'makshe libo yipol vera'ah. Whoever is makshe libo, whoever has a hard, stiff heart, whoever is stubborn, basof yipol vera'ah, he will fall. So we have to be careful from being overconfident, being too calm, and thinking everything is okay. Teshuvah in this generation has double significance. The rabbis tell us in Sifrei Hasidut that there's something called Geula Pratit v'Geula Klalit. Geula Pratit means that when a person does Teshuvah, he redeems himself from his troubles, from his problems. And there's a Geula Klalit, a general Geula for all of Am Yisrael. The significance of Teshuvah today is that everyone's Teshuvah, B'ezrat Hashem, will cause and will bring about a Geula Klalit too. So we have a double responsibility, not only for ourselves, for our own neshamot, but we must realize that our Teshuvah will bring about a Geula for all of Am Yisrael. So we have a double responsibility. So now the biggest question of all is, what do we have to do? I spoke a little bit about, gave you a little bit of a list of things that hold back Teshuvah. What can we do to make Teshuvah a little bit easier? The Navi says, K'chu imachem devarim. Take with you deeds. When you go about doing Teshuvah, when you go to beseech the Almighty and ask for forgiveness, K'chu imachem devarim. Take with you deeds. It doesn't say diburim, it says devarim. Devarim means deeds. People promise, especially b'tfilat ha'ne'ilah, I hear everybody crying, and everybody yelling, and everybody asking, what's going to happen after they leave the door? I don't know. Diburim doesn't impress HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's deeds that count. Commitments. Real teshuvah means charata, vidui ve'kabbalah le'atid. You have to confess, you have to have remorse and regret, but you also have to have kabbalah le'atid, a commitment. Commit, but commit. Some maaseh, some deeds. You know what the importance of this commitment is? There's three ideas behind this commitment. Number one, a person who makes a commitment is a mareshu retzini. It shows that he is a serious man. He's not bluffing. Commitment, according to the Kabbalah, is a shover et haklipa shel hatumah. It destroys the klipa. There was a klipa, a shell of impurity that was holding on to him. He made a commitment, he broke that klipa. He can now advance. And finally, a person who makes a commitment and begins to do something, mitzvah goreret mitzvah, it will become easier and easier for him. So the way to start is by making a commitment on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and even before Rosh Hashanah, and Chodesh Elul. Commitment is very important. Everybody should take upon himself something that he knows that he hasn't been doing well. And I want to remind you that don't take too many commitments. Tafasta merube lo tafasta, vezu gam etzat hayetzer. The Yetzer Hara sometimes comes and tells an individual, oh, you're terrible. You should be ashamed of yourself. The Yetzer Hara is doing that. That is only after a person wants to do teshuvah. Yesh to kvar hirurei teshuvah, so Yetzer Hara comes to him, titbayesh. Take upon yourself everything, because the Yetzer Hara knows when you take too many things, you won't do anything. So take one. Take one, and once you're comfortable with that one, you will take another thing. Year after year. What do we do with habits? Anybody here was ever in the mikveh of the Ari? The mikveh of the Ari is very, very cold. You put your feet in, you immediately want to run away. But we know that the mikveh Ari has many segulot. And one of the segulot that I heard about this mikveh is that whoever immerses himself in that mikveh does not pass away from this world. So we know the importance of this mikveh. Aren't we going to do something about it to get in? But it's cold. So what do? You jump in. You jump in just like you jump into a cold swimming pool. But obviously the mikveh is not a swimming pool. The only way to get rid of a bad habit, is by jumping in, by just doing something to break it. Otherwise, you will never come to do it. You will never change. Make a commitment and jump into the cold water. You need mesirut nefesh. Hashem helps too. And one of the ways Hashem is helping Am Yisrael do teshuvah is in a very unique way. He's telling everybody, Ata lo yachol biladi. Hashem's way of telling us that He's helping us do teshuvah is by letting us know, you need me. Just look at what's happening in Eretz Yisrael. They don't know. They don't know what to do next. They tried everything. They tried this prime minister. They tried this prime minister. They tried this strategy, this policy. Nothing works for them. They think they're going to make the nations of the world happy. If they don't respond, they're still criticized at the United Nations for something else. Whatever they try, they don't succeed. That is Hashem's way of telling us, I'm going to help you do teshuvah by doing one thing. I'm going to show you that you rely on me, that you need to rely on me. You can't without me. That is His message to this generation. It's important to remember what our purpose in life is, to stop for a moment and reflect, and that is the favor that Hashem has given us with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. He makes us stop. Just imagine you're speeding at 100 miles an hour because you don't have a speedometer. You don't know how fast you're going. And a highway patrol stops you, gives you a ticket. You're going to be disappointed with the ticket. In a way, you should be happy. He's telling you were speeding, and you didn't know that. That's dangerous. You may have lost control. And since he already stopped you, you go out and you realize that something else is wrong with your car. So, did he do you a favor by stopping you? Of course. You realize you're out of water and out of oil. Shmuel, what happens to a car when you're out of water and out of oil? Shmuel, what happens to a car when there's no water left and no oil? Huh? So, did the policeman do you a favor? He stopped the car? Yes. Because had you gone a little bit further, it would have blown up. You would have lost the engine, you would have lost the whole car. Kadosh Baruch Hu makes us stop. He forces us to stop once a year to reflect. Think about life. Think about what your purpose is. You have a special mission. And if we know what our mission is, we will know what our priorities should be. We will be a little less stubborn. And we will be able to develop some sensitivity too. This point about knowing our priorities and being sensitive about it is extremely important for the following reason. I just heard an incredible story. How a little child 8 years old, knows what's important in life. All of you heard, unfortunately, what happened at the pizzeria on the corner of Rehov Yafo and King George. There was a Dutch family, immigrants from Holland. 5 members of that family got killed. Some survived, some were not there. One of them was an 8-year-old girl in the hospital that Arik Sharon went to visit her and bought her a gift. And when he's giving her the gift and speaking nicely to her, he asks her, tell me, my little girl, what wish do you have? Ma bakasha shelach? Do you have a bakasha from me? And the girl turns to him, Ken, tishmor Shabbat achat. Just keep one Shabbat, please. The Prime Minister of Eretz Israel and other ministers were so taken aback, were so shocked by these words coming from an 8-year-old girl, that they went on the airwaves and said, ladies and gentlemen, just look how strong the shorashim of the Yehudim is, how strong the roots of a Jew is. That at a moment that she's injured, in pain, in a hospital bed, knowing that she has no parents and lost 3 other siblings, that's all she can think about is asking the Prime Minister of Israel to keep one Shabbat. Because she knows what the priorities are. She knows what her values are. She knows what's important to her. She's a sensitive girl. That's the kind of sensitivity that Kadosh Baruch Hu wants all of us to have. A very special mitzvah of our generation is to bring others b'tshuva shlema. And for those of you who have not heard about the dream that Chacham Ovadia Yosef had, I just want to repeat it. That is, very recently he had a dream. He saw himself in Yerushalayim, and he saw the Mashiach close to the Kotel HaMaravi, with many people around him. And he goes over and he asks the Mashiach, Kvodo nimtza po, lama lo mitgale? Your honor is here. Why don't you reveal yourself? Why don't you come? And he answers him in the dream, and I believe it's a real dream. How could you expect me to come if there's still 1 million Jewish children that do not know how to say Shema Yisrael? What that perhaps tells us is that it's incredibly important for us to go out of our way to bring others. Because when we bring others back b'tshuva, what we're showing is true Ahavat Yisrael. When one cares about others, he wants them to be zocheh too. One does not only think about his teshuvah, he wants everybody else to be zocheh. So there's a tremendous obligation on all of us to do whatever we can to bring others back b'tshuva. Just want to finish with what the rabbis tell us. The rabbis tell us, in whatever way one man wants to go, they let him go. They don't stop him. A person wants to be a rasha, a wicked man, wants to do averot all his life, they won't stop him. Wants to be a tzaddik, they for sure won't stop him. But there's another saying that the rabbis tell us, Habal litaher mesayein oto min hashamayim. One who does teshuvah, he should remember he's not by himself, he's not alone. They not only let him, they will actually help him. They will actually enable him. So all of those here who are thinking of doing teshuvah, I assure you, B'ezrat Hashem, if you do Teshuva, tizku lektiva v'chatima tova. But those of you who are also mezakeh others lachzor b'tshuva, tizku gam ken lirot begeulat Yisrael.